Hi, gorgeous starlights. Welcome to this episode of the Inner Plane Transmission Series, where I go over different transmissions that have come through my blogs and bring them into voice form. Now, depending on the energy present, I may expand on them or just leave them as is. But before we begin, let's go ahead and just take a nice deep breath into this present moment. Maybe close your eyes and take the deepest one you've taken before now. And give a good verbal exhale out. And just take as many of those as you want. You are not here to prove. You are here to simply and divinely be yourself. Being yourself. It sounds like the simplest thing in the world, and yet for many of us, it feels like the hardest. Because from the time we're small, we're taught that our value, our worth, our belonging is measured by something outside of us, by how we appear, by what we achieve, by whether we meet the invisible, ever-shifting standard of who we should be. And so an undercurrent forms, from a loud scream to the quiet hum in the background, whispering that we are always, somehow always missing the mark. That we must prove our worth, justify our existence, or strive harder to earn the right to take up space. But there is a truth that pulses beneath the noise of the world. You do not have to prove anything. Your right to exist is woven into the fabric of life itself. And I want to just expand on that for a moment. Your right to exist is woven into the fabric of life itself. It always makes me think about kind of the basic principles, the basic fundamentals of life. If you think about as the explorations of different planets and systems are being explored, the question that's always posed is, are there the elements in which to support life? And if you look at our Earth, if you look at our world, you see the confirmation and reflection that yes, there are the elements in which to support life. And not just one type of life or one way, but rather a myriad of limitless life forms and essences, from the big and seen and obvious all the way down to the microscopic and beyond what's seen. It's teeming with life. And this natural consciousness, this element of the earth, that if life exists, it has the elements in which to support it. So that is the natural consciousness of the earth. And the same is for you. So I just want you to maybe take a moment and breathe into that your being alive, the natural consciousness of the world is that there are the elements in which to support you, to support your life. And not by having to do something or change or rearrange or become or earn or prove, just through you simply existing and potently existing. And we see this again mirrored in the ecosystems, that the very diversity of ecosystems is what makes a healthy ecosystem. And within the ecosystem, each kind of life form is being itself. It's living as it is. It's living as itself individually. And yet it's interwoven into the whole. It's a part of the thread of the fabric of the ecosystem. And by existing as it is, it actually feeds into that whole fabric, into the whole system. It echoes and ripples out in ways that sometimes may be immediately obvious, and others that may not, may not be seen. So the things that could even be the most subtle or unseen, and yet creates a huge impact. So if we think about even in the ocean, if we were to take out one of the smallest things, the plankton, and it would affect the largest animal in there that feeds off that, the whales, right? So this seemingly big and small thing, and they're individual, they're existing, in this ecosystem, yet they're completely interwoven. And it's the same for us. We are interwoven. Our existence is woven into the fabric of life itself. And it's really existing as we are, just like the rest of the ecosystem, benefits the whole. And a lot of what we have been conditioned and programmed is that our consciousness is what sets us apart. It's what makes us different. It's what separates us. And I think that we have taken this into a literal translation of being separate, of us being, of it causing a separation. And in that, it's created hierarchies, essentially, in this way to assign value or different values to life, when the inherent essence of life is that all life is valuable. And I would like to beg to differ that instead of our consciousness setting us apart, making us different, making us separate from everything else, is that it's an attribute of our humanity. It's the attributes of being human that gives us deeper opportunities through our choice and our free will and how we coexist and how we co-create. And those choices are, again, directly, individually and directly connected to the whole. Sometimes it's obvious, other time it's ripple effects. And this is where the whole spectrum of life is the elements in which, as we've taken ourselves outside of the natural cycle, the natural rhythm, the ecosystem of life, life has become the thing that we have then tried to control, tried to grasp, tried to make happen, rather than the natural element of it moving through us, from us, for us, to us, like the whole, all of it together. And yet in this separateness that we've taken to a literal, in a literal way, and understanding and implementation of this separateness, is that the only thing we've effectively done is separate ourselves from ourself and essentially life. So we are being always given the opportunity to cultivate a deeper relationship to ourselves. And that includes the places of feeling separate, not good enough, all the places felt we've had to prove or earn. And as we cultivate relationship to these places, our relationship to it, there's a lot of deconditioning of the external imprints and a lot of ways we've had to survive that were needed or that our ancestors needed, so we can integrate, process, digest life in the way that is actually a part of our system, a part of our rhythm, a part of who we are, to then perpetuate life from both that innate wild wisdom that has the ability to do so just simply by existing, combined in an alchemy with our choice, with our free will. And that is such a potent magic in and of itself. And we are, again, learning and being always given opportunities to deepen that relationship, come back into rhythm and coherence with all of our being, so that life is actually, again, moving through us, and it's feeding the whole system. So this is where our consciousness, or the places of separation, where it has taken us out of that rhythm, because life is the full spectrum, those pieces are a part of it all. So in our feelings of separateness, or all the places where we've held ourselves apart, been taught to hold ourselves apart, or that we don't have access to those places, is that we get to meet it with a presence. And through meeting that, through processing and digesting not only our food but life, we can come back into, again, a coherence of all these places, so that the wounding can become the wisdom, where, okay, I've been taught to, I don't have access to my truth. I have to look outside, somebody else knows better for me. Somebody else knows, even though inside it feels something. It's, that constant conditioning is that can become a wisdom signal in the system. The very things that trigger us up are also signals of our inner being, and the resonance, the frequency in which it hits, it lets us know that something's going on, sometimes deeper than what we're aware of. But on a frequency level, the system knows. And so when it makes us shrink or shut down or all these things, there are so many layers that are interwoven. So I can feel it's like, again, the survival or coping aspects wanting to be acknowledged, that at certain times maybe we did have to shut down. Maybe we did have to make ourselves small or listen. We, as children, we didn't have really a choice in our environment or the quality of our environment. There, we really did depend on the people who are meant to be caretakers that are in the environment to take care of us, to nourish us. And so we didn't have a choice in the quality of that. So as those become foundational layers and levels into a lot of our belief systems of who we are, how we walk in the world, how the interaction of that is, it's this deep meeting of where are the implants, where are the imprints, what was needed to survive. And it's not about just making those go away or discarding them. It's about being able to honor what was needed at that time, and then be able to, again, process, digest, assimilate what is current now, even if it's just a little tweak that needs to be changed, a little piece. The ripple effect, just as in the ecosystem, it affects the whole. So this is what I like to call micro frequencies. It's like the micro currents, in a way, of that. Sometimes just even the slightest adjustment, even in posture or stretching or breath or something, it really changes the whole structure. So we're being given these opportunities, and through our free will and choice, that all these structures that have been a lot of our identities or how we understand ourselves, that have been built up since the time we were small, have been deeply conditioned and programmed by the external. And so these meldings, these integrations, when we can really bring in a deeper presence that we've been, again, taught a lot of times. So you shouldn't have that feeling, it needs to go away. If it's not good, well, then it's bad. And if it's anything other than good, you shouldn't have it, or you need to get out of there as soon as possible. And what happens is it bypasses the natural wisdom of our being, of our rhythms, to break down and assimilate the information and our experiences, so that it can really integrate, again, what is needed, what is not. There are survival systems and coping mechanisms that we were needed, yet in the whole of life, we're not always meant to be operating from those survival places. We're not always meant to be in the sympathetic nervous system, which is that stress survival mode. There's also the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that rest, relax, like recalibrate, heal, restore. And it's not only, it doesn't always have to be these grand, I guess, in a way, the energy's rearranging. So it's like, I think a lot of times, because we've been operating from the survival mode, from the stress, from the sympathetic nervous system, is that the buildup of rest, of process and recalibrate has been pushed away. We have lived in a way that glorifies and highlights keep going. You just kept going no matter what. That's how you're strong. Keep going. Let everything else go. Just keep going. And again, it bypasses the natural wisdom that is in our breakdowns, that is in the falling apart. If we look at our seasons, how it also reflects in wintertime, it's the leaves that fall, or like the breakdown, it's gathering the energy, the life force inside, that when it's ready, the softest leaf, the softest leaf emerges, life form comes through the hardest branch. And we don't give ourselves that same process. We've been taught not to, that we can't, that we're not allowed, that there's no time. And so life coming from this place again has been perpetuated and built from a control of having to make it happen, of trying to push through, when sometimes it's trying to break down and break apart so it can fall into place, so it can come into deeper coherence with what is within. And sometimes we need those moments, just like winter, to cultivate time for our inner landscapes. And again, it's where we get to reassess what's working, what's not working. What are the things I can say yes to, or no, or delegate, or again, maybe just little shifts that rearrange the structure of how it's operating. And because it's been built up, a lot of times in the system, it feels like we have to have these whole huge, times of rest. And where sometimes that is also in the rhythm of life, the buildup that we are trying to catch up from, it's like it's as long as we continue from the survival states and places that we've been, and how we've been conditioned, and the structures that aren't serving, and we all fucking know it, yet it just tries to grasp and hold on to. That's the only way that life can keep existing. It keeps repeating, it loops the energy. And so we are, again, being given the opportunities to meet ourselves deeper and deconstruct a lot of the programming from the external to come back into coherence with who we are, is such a deep gift. Because in that separation, it plays into the paradigm that we've been so deeply programmed. Being myself takes away from somebody else, or someone else being themselves takes away from us. And it's like, in the natural consciousness, like the ecosystems reflect, the being of the self, the individuality, the life, it really is in coherence with the heart without even having to try, because it really does give to the rest of the ecosystem. It feeds into the whole. And so with our consciousness, with these places of separation and proving, and the questions that we ask of, our value, our worth, our all of these things, because of the wholeness of life, all of this separateness, all of the questioning is meant to also occur. It's a part of life, yet we're meant to be able to process it, to integrate it. So even little things along the way that may feel small or insignificant, or we might feel small or insignificant, to remember it's like one of the just most potent and powerful things that go beyond what is seen and obvious. It echoes into the structures, and as we cultivate the time and space to bring in presence, to meet what is, and to again reassess as it comes up, as we're meeting it, we're essentially getting the opportunity to meet ourselves deeper. How is it hitting where is it hitting in the system? How is it echoing? What's the maybe stories or the belief systems that come through? Where have these things been playing out in your life? And is it working? You know, is it working? Is it really working anymore? And within the subconscious layers, there's also pieces of the survival systems that when change comes, it's going to bring up a feeling of life or death. And again, we have been so deeply conditioned to try to push death away, to try to prolong life and never deal with death or the death of something from the physical all the way down to the metaphysical realms. And again, this bypasses the natural rhythms that are inherent with us of the birth, life, death, rebirth process. If you think about the plants, again, losing their leaves, and it's like the decomposing, the breaking down of that cycle of that process of the life, the branch being the leaf being on the branch into decomposing and composting, it becomes the nutrients that can feed new life. And this is the wisdom that is also within us. So as we cultivate more of our natural rhythms, the essences of our being and who it is, it has this wisdom that we can get to both choose and cultivate, and also is deeply within us, and the movement becomes the melding of it, the alchemy of it, of the inner and outer. So it's like with that outer separation and the paradigms and the different pieces, it's a meeting of the self and how we get to process it, how we get to digest it, how we get to enter deeper into our natural rhythms that have been calling for so long, that have often been quieted or pushed away, or so that it can't exist, so that natural wisdom process that we can have, cultivate the deeper sense of where those rhythms, our own internal rhythms, are occurring, how they're playing out, and the movement of life within us, from those places. I know that was a lot of words into that expansion on that, but I just want to kind of, again, give some food for thought into just, again, the natural the natural elements of the foundation of life, the fundamentals of life. If life exists, there are the elements in which to support it. And we see that reflected in our world, in our ecosystem. We've taken ourselves outside of that as humans in a literal sense, which has kept us grasping for life and trying to control it, which has essentially separated us from not only ourselves, but life of the rhythm. And because life encompasses the full spectrum, the multiverses, the limitless varieties and variations, not just black and white, right and wrong, good or bad, but all of it in between, as we cultivate through our free will, through our consciousness, through our awareness, and cultivate the choices in which we coexist and co-create, it transforms and alchemizes even deeper realms of the innate wisdom that is within us simply through existing. And in our existence, that unique essence of our experiences, of the different things that we've experienced individually, and our soul essence blueprint, the alchemy of body and spirit, is that, again, that individuality, the essence, the way that life animates and echoes through us in limitless ways, is such a deep gift, feeds the whole ecosystem. And it's so powerful and so potent. I just want to remind you, be a reflection of the magic of who you are truly. Yeah. You are multiverses of stardust. The most potent way to walk through this world is to be authentically yourself. And I love how science is backing this up now, is that you are literally made of stardust. Entire multiverses live inside you, limitless possibilities through which your being is meant to express, create, and discover itself that is ever unfolding, right? It's that constant unfolding, birth, life, death, rebirth, whether it is physical or metaphysical, all the realms, it is always unfolding, just like the seasons, just like this, the rhythms, the cycles, it's always unfolding, and we're meant to unfold into more and more of ourselves. So as much conditioning and programming as we've had, we get to keep unfolding more. We get to keep deepening our relationship to ourselves and take that inner journey that echoes and becomes, it is a part of the life that is the external. When you live bound by someone else's expectations, by the vision they carry of who you should be, something sacred is lost. It is like cutting off the flow of your own essence, narrowing the river of your being into channels that were never meant to contain you. The full spectrum of life, the colors, textures, and frequencies of your soul cannot be expressed through someone else's map of you. To shape yourself into their image is to fracture the energy of your own wholeness. And fractured energy can only travel so far. It grows weary, it loops in circles, it seeks itself in places that cannot satisfy. But when you begin to return, to gather the pieces, to reclaim the threads of your own essence, the energy remembers itself. It expands, it flows, it reconnects you to the infinite rhythms of your being. Who you are is not just for you. It is a gift, a living transmission that touches the whole. When you root into your own inner knowing, aka being yourself, you move in rhythm with the divine spark that has always lived in your heart. Again, it's that reflection in the ecosystem, being self, the natural consciousness, the natural rhythm of it is that it's inherently connected to the heart as it's existing as self, yet it's interwoven and giving to the whole. It nourishes the whole. It's not a taking away of or having to control or make happen. It is the natural consciousness of it. It is that coherence. From that place, your very being sings, a resonance that ripples outward in ways that may unseen, yet are deeply felt. It nourishes you, it uplifts others, it weaves into the fabric of the universe itself. This is the alchemy of living in coherence, where your truth becomes medicine and your essence becomes a blessing beyond measure. The cycles within. To be yourself fully is not to feel one way all the time. It is to honor the wholeness of your inner landscape. And this is what I was referencing to earlier. It's not about, being in coherence with ourselves, and the natural rhythm isn't always about having to be, oh, I feel so good and I feel so connected and it's just all love. It's that the rhythms of our being, when anger or grief or different pieces come up, it's to be with it and to allow it to move through us in a way that, emotions are energy in motion and they hold frequency. So when they come up, the frequency is meant to emit, but we've been taught, conditioned, survival coping, push it down, make it go, like it's not allowed to exist, try to control it, manage it. And so as we push it down, the frequency distorts, and then it builds and builds and builds until it comes out distorted. Well, these are the ways that it's like in meeting ourselves and coming back to the rhythms of who we are. It's actually allowing the wavelength of expressions to express, and we get to cultivate, we get to learn, we're meant to learn healthy ways to express them. So screaming into a pillow, stomping, screaming underwater, going to a room, breaking shit, break room and breaking shit, chopping wood, like all of those things. It's like those elements. How can that move through us in ways that, again, it's meant to move? Yet when we have been conditioned the way we have, it keeps the frequency small. It keeps the relationship and the connection to it small and how it's operating. And then that is what, again, where life is being perpetuated from. So when we return to presence, we feel the living rhythm inside us, not a single note, but a full symphony. Our grief, our anger, our tenderness, our joy, our exhaustion, our wonder, each one a season, a cycle, a necessary element in the ecosystem of being human. Just as the earth requires both storm and sunlight, decay and blooming, so do we. This is a part of the inherent wildness and wisdom within our systems that have the ability, the capability, the magic to process, digest, move life from within, versus, again, that external place of separation, control. We don't know, what's within us or what's best for us, all these things we've been conditioned. So all of these rhythms and multiverses of ourselves, the coherence of them, the wavelengths, the ripples of them are all a part of it, a part of the full symphony. And they all have a piece. They all have a potent place. Grief, the waters that cleanse. Grief is an act of reverence for life, for love. We grieve because we love, because something mattered enough to move us, shape us, touch us deeply. Grief arises when something ends, when something is lost, when a piece of us shifts into form we no longer recognize. Even when we grieve the loss of an old version of ourselves, it is love speaking. It is the love within the facet being acknowledged, honored, remembered. And I want to expand that a little bit too. Sometimes maybe it's not even the places that we are aware of, or that, that's where love is and now we feel it's not. I mean, we could grieve that the feeling of loss of love or loss of self, that we don't know what that is. And that is another form of love speaking that we may not even be aware about, because the wisdom underneath is grief saying, the love that feels lost here, in this place, in this situation, in this relationship, in this dynamic, in communion, in myself, wherever it is actually the love. This is where love and grief are interwoven. It is the speaking of that love that feels absent. So it's like so many pieces, so many layers and realms. Grief comes like a tide washing through us, softening what has grown rigid, dissolving what can no longer stay. It is not weakness. It is love and loss braided into one current. When we allow grief to move, we enter its cleansing waters. We remember that we are not separate, not isolated in our sorrow. We are porous beings, part of the great ocean of life, where every tear becomes a prayer of belonging. Grief shows us the depth of our capacity to love. And in its flow, we are reshaped, renewed, carried closer to the essence of who we are. Anger, the fire that transforms. The essence of fire is movement. It is alive, dynamic, never meant to stay still. We've seen the destruction that fire can cause, whether on the side of giving it or receiving it. And so we've been shamed, told to control it, extinguish it, make it go away. This narrow relationship to fire, to anger, keeps the frequency small. It forces us to operate in distortion, pushing it down, locking it away, until the pressure builds and it bursts. But anger, at its essence, is not here to destroy us. It is here to move us, to move what has been stagnant, to burn through what is false, to clear the space for what is true. We are being given the opportunity to reimagine our relationship with fire, not as something to fear, but as a force to tend, a teacher of transformation, a sacred current that, when honored, transmutes what no longer serves. Anger rises when something sacred within us has been crossed. It is the heat that strengthens. It is the spark that awakens will. The fire that, when cultivated, becomes the fuel for change. To live in harmony with the fire is to learn the art of tending. What flames need stoking? What patterns, stories, or attachments are ready to burn away? And what new form is ready to emerge from the ashes? Anger, honored as sacred fire, becomes not destruction, but alchemy. The fire that transforms shadow into strength, resistance into movement, endings into beginnings. Joy, the bloom that remembers. Joy is not something to be earned. It is your birthright. It arrives unannounced in laughter that spills without effort, in sunlight warming your skin, in the playful tumble of animals, in the simple wonder children find in the smallest things. Joy is both quiet and wild. It can be as subtle as a plant reaching toward the light, stretching itself towards what nourishes, or as contagious as laughter that ripples through the room, reminding us of our shared aliveness. Joy is the wildflower of the ecosystem, unplanned, resilient, utterly necessary. It finds its way into cracks, into unlikely places, reminding us that life itself longs to bloom. Our bodies are not only wired for survival, they are designed for delight, for blossoming, for the rhythm of expansion and release. They carry within them the memory of joy as a natural state, a frequency that is always present, even beneath grief, anger, or fear. Joy is a remembering, a current that says, you belong, you are alive, you are meant to flourish. When we let joy move through us, whether in a fleeting smile or a great eruption of laughter, it expands beyond us. It ripples outward, touching others, weaving us back into the truth that love is not only solemn, but also playful. Joy is medicine. Joy is prayer. Joy is the spark of the soul, reminding us that life, even in its simplest forms, is holy. Rest, the fertile dark. We live in a world that glorifies keep going, push harder, don't stop, don't quit. But when life is lived only in this context, it leads us into burnout, into survival mode, into coping mechanisms that bypass the medicine of what we are truly meant to receive. Rest is not weakness. Rest is not quitting. It is the time where we are meant to reassess what is current for us, how it has been playing out, and whether that is truly the soil from which we want our life to keep perpetuating. Without these pauses, we repeat old patterns on autopilot. With them, we gain the chance to choose again. Rest is the compost of our experiences, the breaking down, the softening, the integration that nourishes what is becoming. It is in this moment the old is digested, transmuted, and made fertile for new growth. There are seasons when nothing seems to bloom, when silence and stillness stretches long. These are not failures. They are sacred rhythms. The fertile dark, like soil in the winter, gathering unseen nutrients. Rest is not absence. It is presence in the most essential form. It is the quiet ground from which new life takes root. The multiverses within: grief, anger, joy, rest, tenderness, expansion. None of these are separate or contradictory. They are the threads of the same tapestry, roots of the same forest, galaxies of the same vast universe. The variety of your inner experience is not a flaw. It is wisdom. It is aliveness. You are not here to flatten yourself into one acceptable state of being. You are here to remember that wholeness holds the full spectrum, that you are an ecosystem in motion, a multiverse of existence, as intricate, essential, and miraculous as the living world around you. The right to be. Your existence is already sacred. Every rhythm, every rise and fall within you belongs. You are not here to perform your worthiness. You are here to be. And in that simple act of being, with presence, with gentleness, with truth, you become a part of the great unfolding of the cosmos, an essential and unrepeatable as a constellation. So to remember to let the world sparkle with the magic of who you are. And there are some things that you can journal out, and I recommend doing this versus just going over them in your mind. There's something really magical that happens. But where have you bought into the illusion that you would be happier if you changed because someone wanted you to? Where have you believed in changing who you are, you might be more lovable or accepted? What aspects of yourself have felt not good enough or not doing it right? What truths or versions of truth have you been living by that are not your own? And this one may feel a little dense or maybe harder, in the sense that so much of what we have been taught who we are, our relationship to ourselves, how it gets to be, those communication systems have been so deeply imprinted by the external. So this is where you can maybe explore different aspects of what feels like, what versions of yourself are coming up. And this leads into the next question is, can you trace, like, where did these come from? Can you remember different moments, maybe something that was said, or even a look from a parent, from a teacher, what wasn't being said, all these things. Can you start to trace these threads, partner, society, different, all these different ways. And when you can start to trace those threads, you begin to start to, hit the whole kind of system in a way that you can start to see, like, what starts to shake up, like, what is it, where has that been playing out? And actually, that's what I was deeply taught, whether what was said or not said, or what was, being shown to me, or again, when I didn't have a choice as a child, and how has that been playing out in my life? Can you notice the threads that have been woven in? And this is where you start to deconstruct and decondition, again, what is yours, what is not yours. And to notice, how did they show up in your body, in your thoughts, different thoughts, or your emotions, your spirit? What are the ways that it hits the system? What are, again, the stories that come up, or the feels, or where does it sit? And as you become more aware of these, you can come into Again, start reweaving patterns of coherence of the communication within. And there's a meditation that I would like to offer. I'm going to do this another time because it just feels like the energy is ready just with those questions to sit with. But I will make a meditation at some point to also help have a deeper practice, a visual practice of coming into what energy is yours and what is not yours and transmuting that energy. But for now, this feels like it is ready to be complete, and you can always leave comments below. I would love to hear just any parts of your process. What is coming up for you? What are elements and pieces, maybe the wisdoms or what you've been conditioned that are coming to be seen, so that it can be woven in, so that it can integrate and process these multifacets of you. You can also always access any of these transmissions on my blog. And if you are interested in receiving love notes, transmissions, updates, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if it resonates. Or you could subscribe to my email list if you want these types of things directly delivered to your inbox. And again, if it resonates, if it feels whatever is leading you in the process, and just sending love into your journey as it's unfolding in all the realms and places. Until next time.